Cake sounds good, actually.
Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon.
It doesn't really seem that Nate really cares about Ultra Sun and Moon, so we could probably just skip over it. I mean, you keep interrupting Mr. Robbie over there.
Can I use my mute, Chris?
Yep.
Thank you.
It's a mute Juxta.
Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon dropped this week, bringing an expanded story that delves into Necrozma, new Ultra Beasts, new villains in Team Rainbow Rocket, new Z moves, the Battle Agency, Move Tutors, and the Rotom Dex.
All right.
So excited about worthless garbage. You want this too?
So I played Pokemon Moon and I really, really enjoyed it, but why should I buy the Ultra version?
Okay, all right, okay.
Actually, if you actually enjoyed it, this shouldn't be too hard.
Then it shouldn't be too hard.
But what's the difference? I want to know why would I play the game again?
Now I understand why you would ask this question from a narrative, from a narrative standpoint.
Tacos for fat.
Fat Fan Club.
Oh
no!
Thank you, Fat Fan Club.
No, that's a bad thing because now there's every unpopular person has a fan club. So
Weird All for the win. Hashtag princess.
Weird All.
Well, hashtag mute Fat Princess.
It's Weird Al.
But he didn't. He said, "Oh yeah, it is Weird All on the donation." Yeah. Okay, so all right, convince you why you should play Pokemon Sun and Moon. If you enjoyed Sun and Moon, and I did, it took me a while. I didn't enjoy as much of the story, but I really did enjoy the end game, right? Like after you finish the story, and I did a lot of Battle Tree, I did a lot of Wi-Fi battling. I really got legitimately into Pokemon as a game because I think that turn-based battles are still valid, Nika. But
only on handheld
listen, shut up, Fat. You're muted. You're still in the timeout.
I can still talk loudly.
Yeah, you can, but it's obnoxious.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So let's get to the point. I am probably 2 or 3 hours into the story, and already, I mean, from the word go, I'm like, oh, the way that they're changing it is so clever that I think that's why they justify doing it. They had a strong idea of what they wanted to do. And I heard that the justification, the way that they explained it to the media, was that they felt like they didn't do the Alola region justice in Sun and Moon. And I actually think that is true.
What do they mean by that, though?
I think that Sun and Moon had problems, and I don't know what they are because I was overlooking a lot of them to continue playing because I enjoyed the actual game. But I think it did suffer from some narrative problems. And what they've done is they've found a way to both retell the story and add something new that is super clever and within the first 2 hours of the game presents itself. So it's the incentive is pretty clearly laid out. Like they thought a lot about why would someone want to buy this. And they made a risk. Pokemon definitely took a risk because their normal pattern of behavior is to not do sequels. But, the Black 2, White 2 thing seemed to work out pretty well. So
is this a sequel?
Nope. It's a retelling.
It's not.
See, that's the thing. Okay. They tried to do something new with the sequel, Black 2, White 2, right?
That was an actual sequel.
That was an actual sequel.
Okay.
This is a retelling of events, but in the most clever, in one of the more clever ways.
Are you playing the same character? Or
Yes.
You're the same character?
Yes.
It's kind of like a different timeline. Is that a good way to put it?
I figure it would be a different perspective or something.
No,
be a different character.
Think of it like a tangent universe. I know we're getting into some pretty heady things here, but think of it
what?
Think of it like a tangent universe. Like there's something that happens, and then the timeline changes, right. and they don't
it's
ever.
It's like Supergirl and the Flash. They exist in the same different universes, but the same stuff's going on.
Someone at Game Freak is smart enough about the way that narratives are being constructed now to know, hey, we don't ever call it a tangent universe because too many people now know what that means, and it's it's technobabble. It has ceased to have meaning, and now it's just technobabble. Like, we know what it means, but we all now roll our eyes at it. But I think that's what's going on. They're using the rules of a tangent universe and telling the story within it, and it's smart. It's really smart. It's subtle and still obviously aimed at kids, but I think adults, and especially adults that picked up Sun and Moon in that Pokemon Go reinvigorating of the franchise, they know that adults are playing, and so it's sort of like, I feel like they brought in some writers that, were working on SpongeBob or, Phineas and Ferb, that know how to write for kids but also know how to write for adults. It's smart. I'm telling you.
Most importantly, Nika, Lily needs help getting Nebby back in the fucking bag.
Hunt muffin.
Oh yeah, hey, I forgot about that.
Thank you.
Okay, but that's the other thing, is that it does all of the things that a second version of a Pokemon game in the generation naturally does, where you've got access to all of the legendaries. Is it kind of
like how there was blue and red, and then there was yellow?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
That's probably the best comparison.
Yeah, it's closer to a yellow or a crystal. Yes, yeah, it's closer to a crystal.
Kooky for princess instead of fat.
Oh, okay. Kooky can be the princess.
Okay. I don't know how we do that because she's not on screen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can be the princess.
Shut up.
You're not Kooky. Shut up.
You're not allowed.
Oh. Okay.
No.
No, but I do think that, what they've done here is really, really smart. And I like it a lot. I'm having a lot of fun even in the opening hours of playing it.
Yeah. I picked it up this morning, so I only got to play for an hour, and so I'm only probably about a half an hour into it because I did a bunch of trading and stuff to get my shinies in. And so far, the only thing that sticks out is as Nate said, there are a few things as I'm playing, I'm like, wait, Did they change that? It's subtle enough to where maybe they changed it, but maybe that's what it was like before. And then there's these two weird characters. I don't know what they are yet, but they look like Garleans.
Now, here, let me.
I'm just trying to figure out why I'd want to play the same story all over again.
It's because they put
it Nika. They just said it's not the same story.
It's not the same story.
This is why.
It's not the same.
This is why. Fringe.
It's the same setting.
Fringe.
Okay.
Same setting, same characters, different outcomes of everything.
Think of it like it's a Zelda game. There's 8 different timelines for Zelda going on coherently.
No, that's not how Zelda works at all.
No, it's not.
Coherently.
Yeah, like a Kokiri.
I get it. It was just bad.
And it was
That's also just
accidental.
not how Zelda works
Can't
either.
There's 3 different timelines for Zelda, Nika.
Yeah, but they're not. Okay.
The end.
Anyway, so yeah, that I highly recommend, at least 3-4 hours into it, I highly recommend going out and playing it because I think it's a significant improvement on Sun and Moon.
Does it matter then? Would you recommend getting the same one you got before, or getting the different one? If I
got
Moon
a different
before,
one,
should I get?
So when that question was posed to Game Freak, they said get the same one because you might notice more in jokes. But I got Ultra Moon when I had played Sun, and I'm noticing just as many little differences and funny things.
Yeah.
So.
If nothing else, Nika, if you actually loved Sun and Moon, unlike Chris, who was
this should be a no-brainer
about it, then I think that you would love this even more.
I really liked it. I didn't like how easy it was compared to previous Pokemon games.
Yeah, well, that's another thing that they address because the difficulty has definitely been increased.
Really?
Yeah, and the way that they.
Are you sure you're not just bad?
No, I'm.
No, because he's going through with a battle team now.
Well, here's the thing: is the way that they did it is sort of like what Square Enix does with the Echo in FF14, where now you have Rotom powers that will power up your entire team for a granted period of time.
I haven't got that far yet.
Yeah,
cool.
It's actually a really cool mechanic that is fun to play with, and
it sounds like it makes it easier.
I mean, it does, but it's totally optional. You can choose whether or not to use it or not. So you have the option to use it or not. I mean, it does make
But that doesn't address Nika's complaint of the Moon, Sun and Moon being too easy.
Okay, so
but I've gone back and played almost like all the previous Pokemon games. And they just like it's so hard that you get to the gym leaders and like you die because they're so much stronger than you.
But again,
and Sun and Moon, I didn't feel that challenge until after I'd beaten the game. And there were, like, a few monsters that were tough.
I think there's a couple of fundamental reasons why. Is because they threw the gym system out in favor of
the stupid totems.
Yeah, the totem system. They weren't sure how that was going to work, and they figured it out. They're a little bit more confident with it. I mean, listen, Game Freak does a lot of things that other gaming companies don't do. They're one of the last holdouts in terms of charging DLC or nickel and diming their audience. Part of that, I have to recognize, is a business, is how well Game Freak runs their business, right? Because the way that they have the entire thing structured is that they make so much money on their licensing, whether it's dolls or whether it's, toothbrushes or anime movies and the series, like all of that shit is licensed, so they get a cut of it, but they're not like and they have input on it, but they're not like direct
no production costs.
Yeah, they're not directly hiring through Game Freak to staff everything from the voice actors, right? Like they're farming some of that out. And what they did that was smart was they made a sustainable business model. And one that worked. They took a gamble. It became the biggest thing in the fucking world. And then they had the foresight to go, oh, well, listen, this is not going to stay the biggest thing in the world forever. We've got to squirrel that money away, save it for when this shit gets lean. I'm thinking like generation 4 and 5. Yeah, and then they're like, you know what? Everything old is new again. They understand trends. They understand how trends work. And they were like, listen, we're going to have that opportunity, but we've got to wait for the right time. And Pokemon Go was the right time. And that was that. I mean, listen, they got very lucky with it. Not everyone gets to do it, but somebody made some very smart business decisions, whether they knew it or not, whether it was their conscience or their gut. They made some very, very smart business decisions where they were like, listen, okay, we know that this is not going to be hot forever. Save enough money to get us through to the other side, and then hopefully that window is going to open. And it did as soon as smartphones became powerful enough to run Pokemon Go in a wide enough quantity. Like the technology democratized how Pokemon Go would be distributed. Because if you had done Pokemon Go 5 years earlier, it would have been the number of cell phones that would have been able to run that fucking app would have been this much. Like it would have been like half of what they are now.
Yeah.
This is a great example of like the wisdom of waiting for an idea's time to come. And whoever is making these decisions read the industry perfectly. And I think they should be applauded for that. And I think in the future, they're going to be studied for this period of time of how you are able to hold to a game design, not blow it down to its fundamentals, Final Fantasy, and be able to come out the other side and go, yeah, this is still the same fucking game, and now people care about it again, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, not every game series gets to do that. The way that they structure it is so unsustainable.
With turn-based combat. It's so yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
But it's on a handheld, so it makes sense.
But that's the gamble. Listen, that's the gamble that Square Enix took when they decided to remove something as fundamental as turn-based combat from their game. Right? Like, dude, this happens. Listen,
they did that with FF12. How long ago was that? That was a long
time ago. And now, listen, we've seen the quality slide happen because they are not making as much money as they used to. It's a pretty simple problem, right? A equals B.
That is not definitely a correlation.
Well, no, but at the same time,
what you want to see there.
Where they're spending money. Here's the thing: you got to pay attention to where Square Enix is spending the money. It's not on their products. It's not on their development. They're spending money acquiring studios in an era where everyone is closing them.
Yeah, and we're not trying to say that the removal of turn-based is the reason.
And it's not because they're making good products.
But it's one of.
It's because they're a legacy brand that still has money from when people thought they were a good company.
When people did give a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been a slow decline, and it's been painful, and I know that's going to hurt some of our audience to their core to hear. But it's fucking true. They have... listen, I think you can make a case. Square Enix up against Game Freak. Square Enix is an example of what not to do from about 2004 onward.
Yeah.
And Game Freak has been doing the same shit since 1999.
And only going up.
And now they're winning. Listen, it's a difference in approach. Both of those series had a decision to make around the same time. And Pokemon did pay for it. Pokemon was not cool for a long fucking time.
Fuck you. Pokemon was always cool.
Listen, I'm saying in the grand scheme of things, Pokemon was not a cool game for a long fucking time. And then they did Pokemon Go, and Sun and Moon was their fastest, hottest selling Pokemon game ever. Ever. Young kids were buying it. People our age were buying it. Fucking everyone bought it. On the back of Pokemon Go.
I've seen elderly people playing it before.
And guess what?
Really?
And here's the difference. Here's the difference. Game Freak came to us as consumers and said, "Hey, remember Pokemon?" And we all went, "Oh shit, I do kind of remember Pokemon." There were more people like me who checked out after 1 or 2 or 3 generations.
Yeah, I checked that after Diamond and Pearl was done.
And they were and they were like, "Hey, guess what? We've got this new thing called Pokemon Go." Oh, that's really cool.
Which is super accessible. So even if you didn't care about Pokemon Go, you checked it out because, I remember Pokemon.
And you got all your favorites from Gen 1.
All your favorites from Gen 1. And you know what? Pokemon Go as a game may be a little bit underwhelming, but it was a funnel back into the Pokemon franchise.
Yep.
Whether Niantic is following through on good game design or not, fucking Game Freak reaped all of the benefits from Pokemon Go.
And suffers none of the loss. Any problems that we have with Pokemon Go, we put squarely on Niantic.
And here's the thing, is I think, listen, that's a way more economically ethical way of doing business. You're not sloughing the cost off onto your audience. You're saying, listen, we have a brand that is awesome, and it will continue to be awesome even if people are saying it's not awesome. Mm-hmm. That's the dissonance that you kind of have to you have to ignore. You have to be able to filter out what is truly hateful, hurtful shit from a really negative person, and then the stuff that is actual feedback, and then kind of the stuff that rides the line between frustrated feedback, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that there are some companies that they have more adept filters, and they have better ways to filter that out and kind of decide truth from fiction easier. And Game Freak they held their ground. And I think that that's admirable, and it's paid off for them in ways that it has not paid off for other games, because other game developers have gone, oh, shiny, new physics engine. Let's go with that. Oh, wait, that's a new combat engine. And if we go with that new combat engine, that means we can upgrade this. And they haven't figured out, they didn't stop to figure out. They were so quick to upgrading things, to thinking that that's what their audience wanted, that now they've actually found out, well, that's not what we want. We want a good game, because our wallets speak for our sentiment, except when we're being manipulated, like with loot boxes.
But don't worry, everybody. I'm sure FF16 will be great when it's developed by Yoshi P. If you want more on that, tune in to Limit Break Radio later. So, Moira, Overwatch's 26th hero, has become available across all platforms as of this week.